Welcome in to ROC Hockey Weekly. I am your host, Rachel Liebert. Thad Brown also in the studio with me. He'll be joining us a little bit later. We're here to give you all of the Amerks updates ahead of this weekend. They come off of All-Star break, their first full week back off of that. So we've got some news, we've got some highlights, we've got some upcoming games, some feature stories as well. And so we'll get into all of that tonight. But we're going to start off with some news off the top. The big news coming for the Amerks ahead of tonight's game, ahead of Friday's game. Zach Metza was reassigned to Rochester from the Sabres. He was came back to Amerks off of this NHL Olympic break. It's his first time being back in Rochester in 2 months. So he spent a lot of time there, 26 games over there in Buffalo. Last skated for the Amerks on December 6th against Charlotte. So was called up, spent a lot of time there, did some good things. I believe he scored 1 goal, had an assist as well. So had his call up, and now he's back down in Rochester to help him through the rest of the season. Maybe he'll get called up again. We'll kind of get into that a little bit later, and head coach Leone's reaction to Metza being back in Rochester. But we also got to recap what happened over the weekend with the Amerks. We'll start with game 1 against Utica. I actually believe this was game 2 of their 3-game series against Utica, but it was split because of All-Star break. But on Saturday, February 14th, it was a 4-1 win. Second period there, Consta Helenius opened up the scoring with a 1-0 goal. It was first of 2 for him that day. Third period, Carson Meyer got a chance, power play goal there, makes it 2-0, and then Riley Fiedler-Schultz ended the scoring, another power play goal. It was a redirect off of Isak Roseyan taking the shot there, so 4-1 win for the Amerks. Devin Levi earned his 3rd straight win over Utica. So, Thad, good things you see there from the Amerks coming off of this 4-1 win on Valentine's Day.
Yeah, and it was 4-1 was the final, but that game was a whole lot closer and more defensive. It was, as you can see, it was 1-0 into the third period, and the Amerks got a 5-on-3 and scored twice in a row, kind of put things away. Utica really hung with the Amerks, which I don't know if that's good for Utica or bad for Rochester, because Utica's been one of the worst teams in the AHL this year. But regardless, hanging on and basically taking care of business with your number one goalie. I think the Saturday game certainly was a nothing to see here kind of performance for the Amerks, even if it was a little closer later than they would probably have preferred. Yeah,
there's a little bit more to see in the Sunday game. Utica did more than hang on in this one. First period, Amerks started off okay. They fell to Utica 7-4 at the final score, but first period, Riley Fiedler-Schultz made it 2-1. And then Riley Fiedler-Schultz again off of Zach Jones there. Thad, you pointed out that play to me yesterday. Fiedler-Schultz tipped it in, but it was really a Jones play all the way. And Utica responded to that, though, with 5 straight goals. Scott Ratzlaff was in the net for the Amerks. Despite this loss, though, Rochester has won last 3 of their 4 games against Utica, but definitely not the way you want to go against the team in the bottom of the North Division standings. 7 goals is a lot to give up. This is a goalie that is behind Devin Levi. So what are your, kind of takeaways with this? This may be a tough loss for Rochester on Sunday.
Frustrating for sure. You play 2 against Utica, you want to get 4 points out of that weekend, and to only get 2 is not good enough. It's not the end of the world. It's hockey. Utica is going to win a couple games here and there. So it was frustrating, especially though I think for the Amerks to be up 3-2 in the second period and not necessarily to have control of the game, but to be in front and then to have it all fall apart, giving up 5 in a row. And it's not all on Ratzlaff. The Amerks allowed 41 shots in that game. They allowed 71 shots over the weekend to Utica in 2 games, which is a ridiculous number, again, for a team at that level. So if we want to talk big picture with the Amerks in terms of can this be a team that goes deep into the summer as a playoff team, this series is not something that you want to put high on the resume of, oh, yeah, the Amerks are a great-looking playoff team, even if by itself the result isn't the end of the world.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you give up 7 goals, like you said, 41 shots, you can't blame it all on your goalie, but certainly doesn't look good for the goalie. And Amerks fans realized that too. During the game, they were actually chanting Devin Levi's name during this, while Ratzlaff was obviously not performing very well. So post-game, head coach Michael Leone, now we got to do some listening to Leone little segment here. We're going to take a look at some post-game stuff from him. That Sunday game, like I said, he talked about just what it was like to be in that moment of Devin Levi. This is the guy that people love, and he's not out there. You have this younger goalie in the net. And so, yeah, Michael Leone had a pretty emotional reaction. We'll play it now.
Some of the goals, obviously, I think Rats would want to have back, but it's not on him. He's a 20-year-old kid. You got to be real careful of, people. The whole plan was the kid's got to go through that. I know, pull, like you just hear stuff. It's like, yeah, you don't have a clue. Like people chant Levi's name to go, like he's a 20-year-old kid, man.
There's 20 guys out there for a reason, and it's never on one guy, no matter who it is, and we got to be better in front of them. I just can't let as many great opportunities as we did, and be better for the next game.
It wasn't just on him, but that's the frustrating part. Like, I think it's nonsense, ridiculous. Some of the he's 20-year-old kid, man. 20-year-old kid. So for me, I have no time for that.
Now, one of the questions Leone was asked after the press conference was, how do you balance, do you pull him? Do you not pull him? He kind of said, we knew he was going to be the guy in net the entire game, regardless of the outcome. Levi was not coming in. So Thad, what are your thoughts? Do you think, maybe they didn't have another goalie ready if Levi wasn't there, but what would you have done? I guess, what is your thought of leaving someone in who's clearly getting beat up on a little bit to kind of, learn from those failures?
I think a couple things going on. Another thing that Leone talked about in terms of that situation was they have a run coming up here where they don't have many games back to back. They're playing, I think it's Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. So you can play Levi over and over and over. You don't really have to worry about him. He's going to have natural rest days in there. So the thinking that Leone brought up was, hey, we just played Levi on Saturday. We're going to have all these games. We're going to play Levi. Let's sit him for this one. We'll give Ratzliff an opportunity, and then we don't have to worry about overworking Levi over the next 3-4 weeks or whatever. So to me, that makes sense. I think there's an argument, and someone brought this up to me, that if you're going to play Levi one game and Ratzliff the other, have Levi play the home game, so the home fans who would be chanting for Levi won't worry about that game. If you really swing these two games and the Amerks lose 7-4 in Utica and then come back Sunday and win 4-1 at home, there's no issue. There's no angst. There's no fans chanting for anything. So I don't want to, that's not the harshest criticism or something or the biggest mistake by a head coach. As for playing Ratzliff, you need that guy to be able to get reps. You can't play Devin Levi 74 times in a regular season. So this was certainly a good opportunity for that. And I guess where would you pull him? Because it's 3-2, like we said, midway through the second period. You're doing okay. Then all of a sudden, bang, 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 it's 5-3. Do you yank him then just to play Levi for a period when you're already down 2? I don't really think there was an opportunity. Now, fans are going to fan. And people who are just there on a Sunday who may be hoping to see Devin Levi because he's the big name that everybody knows, Rochester resident. So I can understand that part of it, but I just don't think Leone was in a spot where he really could have gone back to Devin Levi. I think he was doing the right thing, playing the guy, the backup who was needed to get a rep there. It didn't work out. You were kind of stuck. There really wasn't anything else that he could have done in that spot.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think too, it was 3-2, and then, like you said, 5 goals in a row. Maybe that says more about why did the Amerks up front, why did they allow 5, that situation to even happen to this goalie who, he was 3-1 going into this game. He hasn't lost every single game that he started for them. So I agree with you, and I don't think there's a time to pull him. And this is a Utica team that's not very good. I'm not sure you're expecting them to put up 5 goals either way. So I think learning from those failures is a good thing. That's how athletes develop. And I think too, the other point, Leone brings up is that he just kept saying, this is a 20-year-old kid. This is a 20-year-old kid. This is a 20-year-old kid. This is someone who, this is his first, I think, real experience in the AHL. I think it's been with the Amerks or has been with other teams, but hasn't really had as many chances as he has this year. So I think fans often forget to even separate it from the Amerks conversation. Fans forget that this is just a 20-year-old kid, and to be chanting your teammate's name, maybe it will develop a little bit of sense of motivation, but at the same time, I think, Leone has a point, and I think, there was no good time to pull him, and I don't think not pulling him was a bad idea.
The other thing, too, is you got to remember that the Amerks are here to develop players for the Sabres.
Exactly.
As much as Amerks fans want the Amerks to win and succeed, and that's certainly a part of the mission, developing players is the number one goal. And whatever the Sabres have planned for Scott Ratzliff, having him go through games like this when you're 7 games into his career, wherever he's at, is part of the deal. And I think you make a good point about not expecting Utica to be the team that dishes that out. If it had been Utica on Saturday and the Laval rolling in here on Sunday, and that's the game you threw Ratzliff out against, then we might have a problem, because that's kind of throwing him to the dogs to a degree. But this was not that. This was a Utica team that you'd think you'd be able to handle. And of the 7 goals, there were a number that were Ratzliff mistakes or things where you'd want your goalie to help out. There were also a good chunk that were the goalie being hung out to dry by his defense. This was, and Leone talked about that too, that there were too many passengers was the word he used in this game. This was an all-around bad game by the Amerks, and putting it on the goalie is really forest for the trees kind of stuff.
And to your point too, and like developing goalies, developing players for the Sabres. I mean, Devin Levi's been developing for years at this point. I mean, you have to get the other goalie reps. And then if Devin Levi is pulled up to the Sabres, you got to have someone you can rely on. So in this situation, you have to have somebody who's going to be able to, hold up in these moments. So like you said, I agree that he shouldn't have been pulled even if there wasn't realistically anyone that could have come in. I think it was a fine decision and he'll learn from it. And I'm sure maybe we won't see 7 goals given up from him in the future.
Better not.
But we'll see.
As much as he's 20 years old, he'll find out quick that that's a quick way to not be a part of this league.
You're right. All right, we talked about, developing players for the Sabres. Zach Metza, one of those guys who's been in Rochester for a while and had his chance to be up to the Sabres, 26 games, like I said, and is back down for tonight, for this weekend, for the foreseeable future in Rochester. So Michael Leone had a lot to say about him, all good things, just in his return to Rochester.
It's awesome to have him back for sure. I've said it many times, really happy for him that he's got the opportunity to play in the NHL. But we're excited to get him back. It's a big voice in the room. I know he's excited to play. We're excited to see him play. He's a really good player in our league. Not just what he brings on the ice, but there's 2 big voices that have been missed in the locker room that go a long way, and that are older players, and we don't have a lot of them. So when you get those guys back, it's invaluable to have those guys.
The other person he's talking about there is Jack Rathbone. He's been injured, I think, for the last month, also making his comeback. So, Thad, what is your, reaction to Zach Metza being back in the room and just the impact that he can have for this team, as they get into this final third of their season?
Yeah, Leone talked about it first there in terms of the leadership, guys who are familiar with this level, who can be leaders. You don't have a lot of those at a AAA team, essentially, especially a team like the Amerks, where the Sabres generally have been we're going to be really young at the AHL level and not do what maybe Hershey's done over the years, bringing in 30-year-olds to win games with. So having a guy who can be that leader, number one, is a big benefit. Number two, we talked about it last week, that this team is really talented up top when it comes to being offensive or being able to put the puck in the net, with Roseanne and Helenius and Zach Jones, the defenseman. Well, now Metza gives you a third winger. So now we said last week that I thought one of the keys down the stretch and into the postseason for this team would be lines 2 and 3. What can you get? Well, with with and with Roseanne and with Helenius, you've got to put one of those guys on the second line. So now you've given that second line a legit elite scorer type, because Helenius and Roseanne were both all-stars, and Metza's been up at the NHL level for the last 3 weeks or so, month or so. So that to me, in terms of on the ice, is the biggest benefit, that you've taken that second line and at least put one guy on it that is a legit A-level threat.
We said last week, too, this could be the first year that the Sabres aren't giving guys to the Amerks at the end of the season because they could be making the playoffs. And I think Metza is one of those players, like you said, is an NHL level player, not, an elite level NHL player, but he's been up there, he's done it. And even having him back is kind of an NHL boost in a way, just because of his experience, the fact that he's been with the Amerks for several seasons. So I think this is all benefits all around in this situation. And as Leone said, he's in the locker room. That's another voice and just another leader that this group has. And he is one of the older guys. I think he's like 24, 25. So being one of the older guys in the room, I think certainly helps. He played with the Amerks 14 games this year, had 13 points for them. So clearly he's a guy
one point per game you will take.
Yeah, clearly he's a guy that gets it done. So I don't think, there's everything beneficial, I guess, about this situation with Metza being back. All right, well, coming up, they might need Metza because they got a tough stretch coming up. They enter the stretch of 7 straight games against teams that are ahead of them in the standings, which isn't saying too much because the Amerks are number 5 in the North Division right now. But Leone also talked about just this upcoming stretch and what his team maybe needs to prove or what he needs to see from his team as they take on these tough teams.
We'll find out how good of a team we are in the next 5 games. Like, you'll know where we're at. I'll know what we have in our team. I like our group. I think we work hard, but we'll find out the next 5 games where we're at as a team. Our guys will be ready to go. It's just understanding this is a stretch where we need to play good hockey. worried about our team playing good hockey against really good opponents.
So how important is this stretch? We know it's a lot of Laval, I think, is 4 of those games, which is the top team in the North Division, the team that knocked the Amherst out of it all last year. How important is this stretch? What do you want to see from the team coming up on these big games?
Competitiveness, because to your point, Laval is 4 of the next 7. And I don't see Laval's number 1 in the division. They're one of the elite teams in the conference. They were one of the elite teams last year. This is going to be certainly a litmus test type game. So how do the Amherst do our type stretch? Are the Amherst in the same world with Laval? Can they hang with them over these next 4 games? They will not see Laval again until the postseason, hopefully, from the Amherst point of view. So this is your opportunity, especially against those teams. And then on top of that, it's Cleveland, it's Charlotte, who's 3rd place in the other Eastern Conference division. So there are good teams coming up. This is not Utica 3 out of 4. The Amherst on the standings page, they need W's, they need points. Because like you said, they're in 5th place, they're hanging on to the last playoff spot. But in terms of the vibes, in terms of what this team could be in April, May, and June, this, I think, next stretch will be the bigger for that than it will be what place, what number is next to their seeding going into the postseason.
I think as far as Laval goes, too, the Amherst are 2-2 with them this season. And just like you said, the vibes. I mean, you have to get some of those wins. Even if you take 2 of the games of the next 4 against Laval, you have to take, at least one of them to have some good mojo going into.
Losing all 4 would be bad.
Exactly.
Sure.
So you've got to put up a fight. It can't be a 7-4 lopsided every single night. I think these games are important though, because the Amherst, Leone kind of touched on it too in his press conference. They haven't been as healthy as they really are right now, and with some guys with Metza coming back, they haven't been to that point this part in the season, or they are right now in the season better than they have been previously. So I think this is a true test to see if they can maybe, I don't know what the points rankings are right now, the standings, but maybe climb up a little bit and not have to be, kind of hanging on for that final playoff spot.
Kind of the point he's making is that it's less of a test of them going against other teams that are good and more of this is the best we're going to be. Let's see how good that can be in terms of let's test our own team. I think that makes a lot of sense. And you're not going to get any better opportunity to do that than with multiple games against Laval in the next few weeks.
Exactly.
They're 6 points out of 2nd place. So they're still a good week and a half from really being in a much better position than they are. But on the flip side, we talk about this being more of a vibe stretch than it is a standing stretch. If you go 0-4 against Laval, you might find yourself out of the postseason, and that would be a big disappointment for sure.
Yeah, especially that 6th place, I think, is pretty close. The Utica's kind of too far.
Utica's not a problem, but
right. Below, I think, you gotta. It's a big test. It's a big test for them for sure. All right, well, one of those people that might be helping them in this big test is Zach Jones. I got a chance to talk with him yesterday, actually, and he has been a guy that has a lot of NHL experience over the last few seasons with the Rangers, and sat down with him. Now he's back, obviously, in the AHL, so got to talk to him about what he's bringing to this team, his outlook this year, kind of a new start for him in Rochester.
Only one defenseman sits in the top 20 in points in the AHL, and he belongs to the Amherst.
That's something that I take a lot of pride in.
Zach Jones has earned 44 points in just 37 games. He's tallied 37 assists to lead the Amherst and is 2nd overall in the AHL.
I'm an offensive defenseman. I like to join the rush. I like the puck on my stick a lot. I feel like I can make plays with the puck, so trying to be reliable and be a good puck-moving offensive defenseman.
This season marks Jones's first in Rochester, signing a 2-way contract last summer after becoming a free agent. But with a new start is a new mentality.
Prove to people that I can still play in a sense. I feel like the last couple of years I've been more of the 7th up in the NHL, and I just kind of haven't really gotten a chance to showcase myself, and if I did, I just didn't take advantage of it.
Jones appeared in 46 games with the Rangers last season, tallying 10 assists to go along with 1 goal. Well, now back in the AHL, he's taking what he learned from that NHL experience and applying it to his game here in Rochester.
It's just to take advantage of every opportunity. There's the NHL is the hardest league in the world for a reason, and you got to take advantage of every opportunity given because, you never know when it's just going to be kind of ripped away from you and you won't get that chance again.
Rochester has been that second chance for Jones to showcase his talent, and he now has 1 goal in mind for the rest of the season.
I hope this team fight for a Calder Cup.
All right, we are now going to get into our Don Stevens Call of the Week every week. A longtime Amerks announcer. It's his final season there, so we're going to get every week one of his best highlight calls. Today we got one from back in 2017 against Hershey. Amerks came back from a 3-0 deficit in the first period. They scored 6 goals in the second period and forced a shootout, ended up coming back and winning it. So as we take you to a quick break, here's our Don Stevens Call of the Week.
All right. As Allmark tries to close the door right here. Bork wide on the right side over the line. Moving in, shoots, put it over top of the net. And the Amerks come away with back-to-back shootout victories. As Bork misses the net, the Amerks come away with this one. And who would have ever thought it after the first period when the Amerks trailed 3-0, actually at 6:56 of the first period. The Amerks trailed 3-0. Who would have ever figured at that point that the Amerks would come back and win this one?
Back here on ROC Hockey Weekly, every single week we're going to sit down with one member of the Amerks. We call it Breaking the Ice with. Our first subject, Devin Levi. So good, had to do it in 2 parts. So here's part 2, Rachel Liebert and Devin Levi breaking the ice.
You said you go on walks to kind of make that an intentional thing. You've been described as a very cerebral, very mental goalie. Just kind of tell me that aspect of your game and just what goes into that and making your mental game strong.
Yeah, so as a goalie, you're in your crease alone. Like, you kind of do your own thing. So to understand like yourself and how like your mind works, how you're, like you understand your emotions is super important. So I make it, I'm pretty intentional about like spending time by myself, going on walks, meditating, like spending time inside, so that when I'm out there, I don't get distracted by what's going on. Like I kind of have a good sense of what I got to do out there, but also like to be able to have the clarity of being able to focus on what's happening in front of me and not being distracted by, internal happenings, thoughts, emotions. It's pretty important for me. It's helped me in my career. So I have a pretty strict morning routine that I enjoy. I really like it, and it really sets me up well for my day. A little bit of stretching, meditating, and walking. I feel like it's a good foundation to start my day on.
Does your morning routine differ from game days versus practice days? Is it more intense on game days? What is that like?
It's actually the same. I treat every day the same, whether it's practice, game, an off day. Every day for me, I try to start it the same way. Kind of getting into a little bit like of the mentality of goaltending. My goalie coach, Marco, from back home, growing up, he always used to tell me every puck has equal value. So, whether it's in practice, in a game, in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals, in a 3-on-3 game, every puck is equal value. Like, make sure you try your best on every puck. So every day for me, it's a new opportunity. Just making sure that I get the most out of every day, whether it's a game day, whether it's practice day, whether it's the biggest day of my life or an off day. I try to treat it the same.
So you talked about your, morning routine, pre-game routine. Say you win a big game. How are you going to go home and celebrate? What is that like?
Yeah, depends on the game. There's been some really cool moments that I've got to live throughout my career that I've really taken the time to enjoy and celebrate with my friends and family. Some big milestones as personally and as a team. But it's super important to enjoy them, but then move on from them. And it's the same thing with a loss. Like it's okay to feel the weight of the loss, but being able to let it go after it's done is super important. So just being in the present moment, enjoying it, feeling whatever you're feeling, but then the next day putting it aside. You got a new day, whether you won, whether you lost, you still got work to do the next day.
So we're going to end our segment here with some rapid fire questions, just some fun, get to know you really quickly. Are you ready for a rapid fire?
I don't know, I guess.
All right, here we go. We're going to go anyway. All right, first question. Dream concert.
Ooh, Coldplay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, what's your favorite Coldplay song?
Fix You. I listen to it before every game.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
What is the best pizza topping?
I'm going to get a lot of hate for this. Pineapple.
A Hawaiian pizza?
Yeah.
Okay. It's not that bad. I thought you were going to say anchovies or something.
Oh,
and then
no,
we were
I
going
don't
to
like
be
anchovies.
a little
Yeah.
controversial. Okay, what is your go-to karaoke song?
Ooh. I don't have one.
Maybe,
I probably
maybe
should, though.
Coldplay.
Yeah, I could go with a Coldplay song.
Okay.
Yeah, just like, I don't know, maybe like a David Guetta song or something, like a song from my childhood.
Not a karaoke person though.
Not really.
No.
Honestly, I would. Like, I mean, I have, but I don't have like a
go-to
specific
song.
song. Yeah.
What is your dream vacation spot?
Ooh, that's a good question. I love going to Florida. I've been going my whole life. My family loves it so much there that we actually moved there.
Okay.
So home is now in Florida. So it is a dream.
What is your favorite sports team besides the Amerks, of course?
Besides us,
Yeah.
go with the Buffalo Bills.
There you go.
Yeah.
Were you always a Bills fan, or is this kind of
I
like
wasn't.
a new adopted thing?
Yeah, when I came to Buffalo, I realized I got exposed to Bills Mafia and like how big it is here, and you can't help but fall in love with the team.
What's one random fun fact about you?
Random fun fact. I don't know. You should ask some of my teammates. I could juggle 4 balls.
You can.
Yeah.
Is there evidence of this out there?
We can make evidence if you
we
want.
might have to.
Yeah.
It might be a follow-up.
Sure.
What was your favorite TV show as a kid?
I think Phineas and Ferb, I really liked. Yeah, I think that one was my favorite.
What is your most used emoji?
Most what?
Used emoji.
Good question. I don't. You know the one with the nose, like the nose coming out, like the Pinocchio one.
Yes.
Like you say something sarcastic,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like to convey that it's sarcastic.
That
with
one?
the Pinocchio, yeah.
Okay. And last question: if you have one message you would like to share with Amerks fans.
Yeah. Thanks for coming to our games. We need you there. We love you. Let's go. We'll see you next game.
All right. Thank you so much for joining me. That's going to do it with Breaking the Ice with Devin Levi. Devin, thank you.
Thank you.
Fun stuff with Devin Levi. He had some good answers. I don't know if anybody's going to be able to top his answers there. The Pinocchio emoji. Pretty good one.
We've learned a lot about Devin Levi.
We have.
Heavy, sarcastic guy.
We have.
Which I appreciate.
We have. All right, we got to look ahead to what the Amerks are going to do this weekend. Only one game, but they actually tonight are taking on Charlotte as of right now. Their last time they took on Charlotte was a loss back in December, so maybe they'll rebound from that tonight. But on Friday, taking on Laval. They've split the series 2-2 so far this year. So Laval's top of the North Division, Amerks 5th. Should be kind of the start of this stretch that we talked about of these tough games. So we'll see if they can get it done against Laval. Thad, what are your thoughts on it?
Opportunity at home too. I think this is the second or third of a 3-game home stretch here. So you want to get as many of those points as you can at home when you have the opportunity. But we talked about it. Laval will be a good test. This is going to be a different level of competition the next few games. So this begins kind of the fun part of a few weeks for the Amerks.
Yeah, should be a fun one for sure. All right, that is going to wrap up our ROC Hockey Weekly. Thanks for joining us. For Thad Brown, I'm Rachel Liebert. We'll be back here next week with all of your Amerks action. We'll see you then.
Get the Rochester First streaming app today for everything you love from News 8 On Demand, plus exclusive shows you won't see anywhere else. Search ROC and download for free on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV.